All right, greetings, class, and welcome to week number 8. That is right, week number 8 of your 7314 class, which is your reference sources and services class. As always, I am your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and what we will be doing today is of course, state of the course update. And then after we get done with that state of the course update, I'm going to tell you all about what I call the Googles of library databases. In other words, the library databases that are more general use. And that's going to be Academic Search Premier / Academic Search Complete, and I'll explain why there are two names associated with that, as well as JSTOR. So these are going to be guys that you're probably going to use a lot, no matter, well, I don't know about K-12, but whether you are in academic libraries or public libraries, you're going to use these two guys a lot because they come in handy. And maybe even in K-12 too. So we are going to take some time to learn just some intro about them today. And then if you want to learn more about them after the fact, then go ahead and find some tutorials and other help resources. Your librarians should like the search process. And once you do that, you should be, these databases are not very hard to use, so you should master them in no time. But these are databases that are not subject specific, and so therefore they are databases that every librarian has in their toolkit if they provide any reference service. So let's go ahead and jump in first on that state of the course update. Also, first of all, I do want to let you all know I'm speaking slower than usual. And that is because every year, ever since I moved to Kansas City, every year, either in September or October, late September or October, hit in October this time around, I do get really intense allergies here, unlike what I experienced when I was living down south. And I think that what it is ragweed apparently really blooms around here in late September and in October. And that's an allergen that I'm not really used to. So the ragweed, I think, is what's killing me. It is causing me to think slower and to talk slower. And it's causing me a little bit of discomfort here, so please bear with me, okay? But I did take some Allegra, and hopefully that's gonna make this process a little smoother for all of us involved. But let's go ahead and get into the state of the course update, okay? So the big thing is, this Sunday you have that Wikipedia edit assignment due. So you all do know that you are, you all do know that you have to use proper APA for that, assignment. And most of the what I ended up doing was I ended up trying to grade papers that had obvious APA errors on them first, so that you all would have a little more time to fix your mistakes and everything. But I am still going to get you all your everyone else is going to get their virtual reference practice papers back prior to the 15th. I should have them all graded by Friday, so that does give you the weekend to kind of go in and tinker with your APA as needed. So what I would say is go ahead and keep doing the assignment as you've been doing it, even if you haven't gotten your virtual reference assignment back. And then this weekend, just make sure on Saturday or Sunday before the deadline, just make sure that you set aside a little time to reviewing any notes that I had in your virtual reference practice papers that you need to remedy, and that will most likely be for APA use, but anything else as well. Anything that I tell you in the virtual reference practice paper that needs to be corrected, go ahead and set a little bit of time aside so that you can get those things corrected this weekend, and you can have the rest of your paper done and just kind of hold it until your APA comes back, okay? So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just let me know. Hit me up in the messages or by email and just let me know. Preferably in the Canvas messages, because apparently the university prefers that we communicate with you all through Canvas message, but people still email me. It just is what it is. Okay, moving on. We also, our next sync session isn't until November the 7th, but another thing that needs to be brought up is that, yes, your semester-long project will actually be uploaded into the course tonight as well. So I'm recording this on the night of October the 9th, and I will both have this video uploaded tonight, and also I'll have your semester-long project uploaded tonight. So those are the things you need to know for the state of the course update. If you have any questions, issues, or concerns, as you should already know, yes, just go ahead and reach out to me, and I will work with you and try to make things better for you. We can work together. Okay. let's go ahead and start talking about JSTOR and Academic Search Premier / Complete. Actually, we're going to start with Academic Search Premier, so hold on. Okay, so both JSTOR and Academic Search Premier, or Academic Search Complete in some cases, these are both offered by Mizzou, so you will not need to reach out to your public library and see if they have it. These are both things that are offered here at Mizzou. So what we're going to do, like I said, first of all, we're going to start out with Academic Search Premier. Now, here's the reason, and I would never assume that you all know this because I have messed up assuming that people knew this in the past, and I had to apologize for those people, but it was a good lesson learned. So, one thing that you all are going to see as you all are librarians is that people use the terms Academic Search Premier and Academic Search Complete interchangeably. And that actually does confuse students because I've said Academic Search Complete, and then I've had students hit me back and be like, there's this thing called Academic Search Premier, is it the same thing? And I'm just like, oh yes, I am assuming that they would know when they wouldn't necessarily know. So there are two tiers of this database. It's really pretty much the same database. But Academic Search Complete has everything, basically. So there are a lot more sources in Academic Search Complete. It is the complete version. Academic Search Premier is more of a scaled down version. It is basically just if you want to be on a lower tier than the tier that pays for Academic Search Complete, you can save yourself a few dollars by having Academic Search Premier, but a lot of times Academic Search Premier still does meet the research needs, particularly of undergrads. Now, when you are dealing with people who are writing dissertations and theses and that sort of thing, then Academic Search Complete would be something they would need, and Academic Search Premier may not meet their needs. But for what we do with undergrads, Academic Search Premier should be fine. And then also nowadays, a lot of people are just using interlibrary loan or other things to get other resources that they need anyway. So the pressure is not on anyone to subscribe to Academic Search Complete the way it may have been even just 10 years ago. It's a lot easier to get things through interlibrary loan now. And so that is, and especially after the pandemic, like people really beefed up their interlibrary loan capabilities during the pandemic, and that stuck with us, okay? But having said that, yes, Academic Search Premier and Academic Search Complete, if you hear somebody say one and you only have access to the other, that's typically fine. It's pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to show you the basics of how this works and how you search it. And if you want to know more, then yes, you should try to find some sort of tutorial or something. But it's really simple. So what you can do is usually when you go into Academic Search Premier or Academic Search Complete, it's going to default you into the advanced search actually. And the advanced search is still pretty easy to use. The basic search is easy to use, but the advanced search is easy to use as well. So that's why it kind of defaults you into the advanced search because it's typically not too difficult for people. So let's first do a basic search, and I'm actually going to do a search for, I'm going to do a search for Donald Trump. I'm going to show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it in a second. So this is the default search for Donald Trump. And as you can see, you have 78,000 results come up. That is a lot of results, folks. That is a lot of results. Nobody wants to sift through that. And so really, when you are doing a search on Academic Search Premier, one thing that you are trying to do is trying to narrow or focus your results. And so as you can see, again, we have 78,000 things. That's way too much. But for one thing, a lot of times what you can do is put quotations around anything that has multiple words in it. If you have a phrase that has multiple words in it and you're trying to search for that phrase or that name or something like that, a lot of times the quotation marks themselves, just like with Google, will narrow your search down. So we will go from 78,000 to a lot less. Let's see where it takes us. Well, it didn't take us that much less. So from 78,000 to 72,000, so it shaved off about maybe 6,000 things. That wasn't as many as I thought would be the case, but we can still limit things further, and that is what we are going to do now. So I'm going to show you some of the features that you can use in order to limit things down further, and those features are to the left over here. All right, so one thing that you may want to do is, first of all, this is defaulting into a keyword search. So if it's select a field optional, it defaults into basically a keyword. So let's say you didn't want just anything that mentioned Donald Trump, because that would be the keyword search. Let's say you wanted something that was about, specifically about Donald Trump. What you can do is you can, by the way, the people thing also works, but what you can do is go to subject terms. Select that, click search. And now you have drastically too few things. So you went from 78,000 things to 261 things, or from 72,000 things to 261 things. That's not what we want. So here's what you do, because it looks like we've hit a stumbling block, but we've got something working to our advantage here. And this is what we call controlled vocabulary. Controlled vocabulary. Yes, yes, yes. Controlled vocabulary is your friend, and let's show you how it works. So controlled vocabulary stops us from just putting in subject terms and everybody putting in different subject terms, so that some people put in Donald Trump looking for the subject, and some people put in Trump, comma, Donald looking for the subject, and that sort of thing. Having controlled vocabulary brings it all under control and all in one place, so you don't have to do all of those searches. So we see that our controlled vocabulary here for Donald Trump is actually this. So let's click it. And then we've gone back up. But this is good. We've gone back up to 55,000 things, but all 55,000 things here are now things that specifically are about Donald Trump. Okay? Now, we still can't sift through 55,000 things. Let's go ahead and limit ourselves a little bit further. And so let's say, for instance, that we wanted to deal with, let's say that, okay, we've got all this stuff about Donald Trump, but what was one of the key policy issues during Donald Trump's administration, and something that is starting to pop up with, or not even starting, that has been popping up with Biden's administration as well? Immigration. So let's say, okay, yeah, Donald Trump is great, but let's have Donald Trump, and then let's have it be about immigration. We want to have something that is about Donald Trump and immigration. First of all, one thing that is good, let's say you wanted immigration and immigrants. So what you can do is use a truncation symbol. And for this database, it's just an asterisk. And basically what the truncation symbol does is it will search for multiple things at once that have the root word. So anything that starts with immigra, whether it's immigrants, immigration, so forth and so on, it will search for all of those things at once because it's been truncated. Okay. Now let's go ahead and click that search and see what we come up with. Come on, buddy. Okay, there you go. And see, now we're getting to a manageable number. So we went from 55,000 things to 4,000 things. But we can do even better because we can make immigration or immigra the subject. So let's say we don't want that to be a keyword either. We don't want just a casual mention of it. We want this to be what the article or what the material is about. Donald Trump, we want it to be about Donald Trump, and we want it to be about immigrants or immigration. What we can do is go to our subject terms, and boom. Now we're going to go from 4,000 things to 3,000 things. So things are looking better and better and better. And we just want to keep plowing it down, focusing until we get to a place where we have a manageable amount of results. By the way, this is what we call Boolean logic over here. I think a lot of you already are aware of that. So you've got the and that's to narrow, or will broaden, and then not. It will make sure it narrows, but it narrows in a different way. Okay. But I think you all pretty much understand. You all have undergrad degrees. There's no way you don't understand the differences between and, or, and not. I think you all got it. All right. So let's go back down here. Let's say that you are fielding a reference request from a undergrad. And let's say that this undergrad is a little last minute, and they're not going to use interlibrary loan. They just want sources. They want sources that they can access the full text immediately. Well, they're in luck, because what we can do is there are sources within these results that you won't have the full text in the database. It's going to take you out of the database and to Interlibrary Loan or Journal Finder or something like that to find your full text. But there are a lot of things that still have the full text in the database as well. So let's go ahead and select full text. Boom, we went from 3,000 to 1,000. It is looking good. Now, everything that you see here is something that has Donald Trump, that's about Donald Trump and about immigra, whether it's immigration or immigrants or so forth. And also the full text is right there in the database, and you will not have to go searching for it. Now, this happens a lot as well. Let's say that the student needs something that is available from the past 7 years. We see this last 5 years thing here, but let's go with our last. No, actually, let's do from when he started really seriously campaigning. And he started seriously campaigning for the 2016 election. He was doing it in 13 and 14, but when it got serious, was more so 15, maybe 14. We'll do 14. That's fine. So from 2014, oh, that didn't really take us down that much. Okay. Well, 15. All right. So anyway, so there you go. So for some things, having that date limiter really will take you down a lot. All right. And then we've got all of these other things going on here. But really, 1,000 isn't too bad. 1,000 is where you can start to kind of, especially when you're looking at relevance. Now, you can change this to date or to source or things like that, so you can put your newest things first or whatever. But we're going to leave this as relevance. And when you leave it as relevance, it's still got a good list here. And if you've got an undergrad that's saying, hey, I just need 10 sources really quick, then they're probably going to find the things they need within the first 3 or 4 pages of results, okay? Now, let's say you find something. Let's say you found something that you want to use. All right. Like, let's say that you have... Actually, before we even do that, let's a lot of times you will find students that are also looking for scholarly or peer-reviewed things. And so there are 2 ways to go about that. You can look in academic journals, and that's going to have an effect. And then you can also go into peer-reviewed, and it's going to have a similar effect. Scholarly and peer-reviewed are similar, though not exactly the same concept. I'm not really going to take time out of the video to explain that. You all are librarians, so if you want to know the difference between scholarly and peer-reviewed, just kind of look it up. But let's just go ahead and say, okay, yes, their professor wanted things that were peer-reviewed only. So we are going to check for peer review. And that does take us down from 1,000 things to 121 things. And so now we've got a really short list. Now let's say that we want this guy here. It looks promising. Well, not that. That is 56 pages. I'm not going in there. Let's say we were looking at this guy and this guy looked promising. So a 9-page thing. So what we can do is we can click it, and then it takes us to a record here. And really, one thing that you want to do, you kind of want to look at this record before you actually even access the full text. If it's PDF full text, you have to click and download it. A lot of times, HTML full text is actually just right under the article, as you see. I mean, right under the record, as you see here. So that's the full text in HTML right there under that. Okay. But let's go back up here. Before you even start reading stuff, because again, some things can be, as you just saw, 56 pages. One thing you want to do is actually go into the look at the abstract. Abstract is typically 1 to 3 paragraph summary of what the article is about. Okay, so if you look at that abstract and things look good, then hey, this is something you may want to save. So and have for later, so that you can do your research, and the student may want to take it home. So you've got some, excuse me, ooh, these allergies. You have some options here. The best option that you have would probably be your not your Google Drive option. I actually don't use these Google Drive and OneDrive things that much. I am kind of old school, but maybe there are younger people that use those a lot more. The main thing I do is just save it to the hard drive, or I just create a list of permalinks. So if you're trying to share this in a class or something like that, the best thing to do is just click the permalink, copy and paste it, and put it wherever. If you just want to save the article, you can go over here to save, and you have some options here. And then when you click and save, you can save it to your hard drive. You can also email it to yourself. That used to be, the way we used to keep up with stuff back in the day. Hey, yeah, email it to yourself so you always have it. But yeah, outside of that, if we scroll back here, we see some other pertinent information in our record, and that's going to help us. So a lot of this is citation information, or information that you need for a citation, I should say. You have your author, and then also you have your author affiliations a lot of times, but not all the time. You won't always have a word count, but it is nice to have one. You have your source. This is the journal it came out of. This is when it came out, volume, issue, pages, and the total number of pages, document type, article. And also, when you click a source type, if you're unsure whether or not a source is peer-reviewed or not, this is where you can find out. So the peer review is right there. That peer review note is right there. Also, it comes out 4 times a year, such and such and such. But a lot of pertinent information that you're going to need is right there. Now, let's go back here. And when you are searching, another thing that you're going to want to do is look for relevant subject terms. So let's say that you did start out with that McGraw and that Donald Trump, but let's say that you want other relevant subject terms: xenophobia, race discrimination, immigration law. If things are actually, if you're doing something that's actually more focused on one of these other subject terms, and you can start a new search and copy and paste these subject terms. These are all controlled vocabulary, which is why they're clickable. So you can do brand new searches using that controlled vocabulary. Okay. All right. And then, of course, you've got some other things. You will have ISSNs, ISBNs, and so forth and so on coming out of those here and there. Okay. So that is the bulk of how this works. It's the basics of how this works. There are other features, but we're just for the sake of brevity and trying to keep this under 40 minutes. And again, I hope you sped it up. But just for the sake of brevity, we're not going to go into too many other features. You can definitely look for a tutorial if you need to. But one last thing that I want to show you is this citation feature, and I mentioned this before in this class. These citations are only right 80% of the time, folks. And this one is wrong. This one is wrong. We talked about the capitalization. As you can see, this one is capitalized incorrectly. So you cannot rely on just copying and pasting these, folks. And you have to be aware of that, and your students have to be aware of that. So also discourage your students from just copying and pasting these. Basically, there is a computer out there somewhere that just generates these citations and nobody checks over them. So you always need to check over the citations. You can use this as a starting point, but you have to check over them and make sure they are correct. All right. Now we are going to go into JSTOR real quick, and JSTOR is not going to take us as long as this did to kind of talk about. So we're going to go into JSTOR really quickly. That'll probably only take us 5 minutes. And again, I hope you sped it up, and then we'll be done. Pause. All right, so let's hop into JSTOR. And again, we're not going to spend as much time in JSTOR as what we spent in Academic Search Premier, but the databases are kind of similar. Okay. And how they're not similar, but they function similarly. That's probably the best thing to say. All right, so this is how JSTOR works. Now, let me tell you a few things about JSTOR. For one thing, JSTOR does not have new content, and that's something that's not necessarily the case with Academic Search Premier. Sometimes you can get, or often you can get content in Academic Search Premier that came out within the last year, the last 2 years, the last 3 years. With JSTOR, things typically are at least 3 years old. They can be, actually, I think their goal is to have things that are at least 5 years old, but I have seen things in JSTOR that were only about 3 years old. But then what really happens with JSTOR is that they keep old stuff. So I've seen things dating back to the 1600s in JSTOR before. But what we're going to do now is just kind of do an advanced search that's similar to the advanced search that we did in Academic Search Premier, but I'm going to show you how JSTOR is just slightly different. The big difference with JSTOR is that JSTOR does not have as powerful a search algorithm, and so you will get a lot of results when you're in JSTOR, and that can be really, really good when you're working on a thesis or a dissertation, but it's not necessarily good if you are just looking for like 10 good sources for an undergrad paper or something like that. But yes, so if we are in our advanced search here, I'm just going to show you all real quick. Now, Donald Trump, I'm not going to use because, again, JSTOR, it has a lot of old stuff. It focuses on old stuff. So we're going to do things that are a little older. We probably will do let's go ahead and do immigration. And we're just going to do it blanket. So as you can see here, you have fields for author, item, title, abstract, and caption, but you don't have that powerful subject search like you would have in Academic Search Premier. But a lot of times still, if something is about immigration, it's going to mention immigration in the abstract, okay? So we've got our all fields. I'm going to leave it there for now just to show you how many results come up. And by the way, everything in JSTOR is full text. So that's another reason why JSTOR is so awesome. It's got old stuff in it. It's got a lot of old stuff dumped into it, and everything is full text. But as you can see, it's going to come back with a lot of results. And so you do need to refine your searches. We have 327,000 results. Yeah, we're not going to sift through all of that. We sure are not. So let's go ahead and by the way, this is not everything. This is content I can access. So if we had everything, it was going to be even more so just draining. But let's go back so that we can refine this search. Hold on. All right. So actually, let's go back and we're going to start kind of narrowing things down a little bit more. So let's do immigration, but then also let's do it as it's got to mention immigration in the abstract. And then we're going to leave our Boolean right at and near, Lord. Sometimes I think they try to get a little too fancy. And then let's put United States here. And let's put that in the abstract as well. And this really should narrow us down quite a bit. Right. Yeah. So we went from 300,000 results to 1,300 results. We're doing a lot better. And everything here, like I said, is full text. Approximately 10% of articles on JSTOR have abstracts. Oh boy. Okay, I thought it was more than that. Okay. So yeah, we have really done a narrowing job, but we probably narrowed a lot of stuff out of our search that was probably useful. So pay attention to these notes as well. And then what you can do is to further limit things. Let's say that you did not want book chapters, you only wanted journal articles. You can do that, put that filter on. Let's say that you only wanted things from 1900 to 2023. That didn't take us down too much, but it took us down a little bit. Let's say you only wanted things from 1990 to 2023. Oh, and even that didn't take us down that much. Okay, but then let's also, another limiter that you can use, you've got limiters for language, and then you've also got limiters for the type of subject. So the subject that the database is, the subject that the journals are kind of linked to. So let's say that you're specifically looking for, you're scrolling down on these and you can pick more than one. But let's say you are looking at Latin American studies in particular for this immigration thing, as well as African American studies and Asian studies. American studies, maybe even American Indian studies. Okay. All right, so you've got all that. Now you are down to 66. So you see that narrowing process works the same, and you can remove any of these filters at any time. And then what happens is if you see something you like, you can go into it. And there you go. When I scroll down, I will see full text right there. So you can flip through the full text. You can you can use this to toggle your pages, or you can actually come over here and download. Okay. You also have save cite. This also has an 80% success rate. So again, check over the citations. You can download here and you can share and save and those sorts of things. Also, you do have your stable URL right there. Okay. And that is, I don't know what citation style that is. All right, but so these are that's really all we need to talk about in JSTOR right now, because that is the basics of it, and it works pretty much the same way as Academic Search Complete or Academic Search Premier, whichever your institution has. Okay, so we can leave it right there. There's really not a need to talk anymore, so I was able to keep this under 40 minutes, so let's not lick that gift horse in the mouth. I am Dr. Jace, and yes, I don't know. Not knowing Academic Search Premier would be a disgrace. I will put it that way because it is one of those ones that if you're working reference, employers at least want you to know what it is. All right, we'll leave it there. We will be back next week with another check-in video, and I will see you guys soon. Thank you.